Narcissism, excessive interest in or admiration of oneself and one's physical appearance. Extreme selfishness with a grandiose view of one's own talents and a craving for admiration.
Well, that might be the clinical definition, but in reality and what people experience with narcissism, it's actually very different to that. The definition of it, I've tried to look it up myself, and there are many definitions, from a scientific definition through to a psychological definition. But I guess it's like anything that's a game of chance. You can read up on it all you want, but when the reality comes and you've got to sit down at the poker table, it's your instincts that ultimately decide whether you're going to win or lose at this game.
Yeah.
My experience with narcissism is quite extensive. The penny just dropped in recent years, exactly how much I've been exposed to it, from family, from employers, the workplace, friends. It has dawned on me recently just how narcissistic most somewhat successful people are. I use somewhat because a lot of it is their illusion of success.
Yeah, there's different people exist, I guess, on a spectrum when it comes to this disorder, so to speak. Now, a person could be called a psychopath, and that's also on the same spectrum as narcissism. But I think it's important that we go on the record, or that I go on the record to say that I believe, based upon things I know about myself and things that I've been doing in the past and this and that I have some narcissistic tendencies. So I'm willing to go on the record and admit that up front. So it is a subject of interest to me. And I'll give you a bit of background. Back in the day, many years ago, probably about 10 years ago now, I did some fitness modeling, and I got a number of emails from people from all around the world, and one person told me that I was an extreme narcissist and recommended that I read a book on the subject. And I did read that book, and it was by a bloke who is like a world expert on the subject, and he is himself an extreme narcissist. And he talks all about the subject. He's all over YouTube, and we'll leave a link to his videos in our video once we've uploaded this to YouTube. But Sam Benkin, I believe his name is, and here's an interesting one. He talks all about the disorder.
I think there's a little bit of narcissism in everybody. I mean, clearly narcissism wouldn't be talked about and documented so much if it wasn't in every human being, even if it's suppressed and regulated and controlled to keep it in a healthy place. And certainly the opposite of narcissism, which is unconditionally handing over your power, your purpose, how do you want me to be sort of attitude to life, that is clearly unhealthy as well. I suppose there's a balance between healthy narcissism and healthy how can you put it, devotion to others. But there's no doubt about it. Narcissism is in everybody, even people that claim that they don't have it. At some point you've got to look out for your self-interest. Now, where I draw the line in the sand is I look at narcissism the same as any other addiction. I do believe it's an addiction. Are you prepared to lie for it? Are you prepared to cheat for it? Are you prepared to steal for it? And the moment those boxes become ticked, you've got a problem. It owns you. It's not a part of you. It actually is you. It owns you. And that's, I guess, therein lies the quandary. Is it a part of you, or are you a part of it? In other words, does it make the decisions for you, or do you control it and bring it out when you have absolute control of it? Narcissism is a very difficult subject to discuss because it makes you look at yourself and who you are. But every person has to work out for themselves that, okay, if you look at the mythology of it, Narcissus looked into a pond of water and saw his own reflection and fell in love. Every person has to work out for himself that he was actually looking into a cesspool and fell in love with his own image. Now, the problem with narcissism is what people are prepared to do in the name of narcissism. And I've been surrounded by some of the best in this area. My father was very abusive. He was narcissistic. He saw the whole world and everyone on it as here to serve him and be used by him to better his world. He saw no desire to help anyone else. Even when he pretended to help another, he was really just helping himself. I've been surrounded by narcissists in the workplace that are very abusive as well. You know, that is both management and co-workers. Management can be the worst narcissists of all because they justify everything based on the balance sheet. Oh, well, we've got to make a profit, and it's okay that we take risks, and it's okay that people get hurt, and it's okay that people's lives get ruined. It was all done for profit. Same old story. You work yourself to death while they're out playing golf. It's only in recent times as I've placed much more value on myself as a person and realised, in the words of Muhammad Ali, I am the greatest, that I've been able to say to these people, no, no, no. And guess what emotion I got to experience in reply to that word?
Well,
have a guess, Clarke.
It'd have to be hatred, wouldn't it? Hey?
Absolutely. Hatred, you cannot experience hatred, you cannot feel hatred without narcissism being present. Right? The opposite of love is indifference. The opposite of narcissism is hatred.
Yeah.
And I think that's the lesson that our viewers need to take away from this chat, is the moment you feel hatred, it is because the narcissist inside of you couldn't get their own way.
That's a very good point. And it is interesting. Now, I've known other narcissists in my own life, and I have seen some very excessive levels of it, both here in the Western world as well as overseas. However, I'm willing to say that the stuff that I see overseas, if you think of people who are in professions where their image counts for a lot, television presenters, people in the public eye.
They're the worst narcissists of all.
Well, that's right. And but the other thing you've got to sort of look at is, okay, anyone whose income and whose livelihood depends upon their looks, models in particular, or even some of the people involved in the red light areas in Thailand. These people you often see taking an excessive interest in their own appearance, and anyone who's ever been over to Thailand will see in the red light areas people holding mirrors, constantly checking themselves in the mirror to see how they look. Now, on first appearance, you would say, okay, well, this person is an extreme narcissist. They're taking a lot of photos of themselves, this and that. But I've sort of come to look at them and say, well, this is actually, it's a bit more than that. Their livelihood depends upon their image, and this is all about their business. Now, out of those people, I would say some of them are extreme narcissists. Others are actually just doing it because it's their business, and they're not really like that away from the public eye, so to speak. So it can take some spotting. You've got to ask yourself, all right, is this the way this person is, or is it that they're putting this on as an act? Now, I've known people in my life, and people who are involved with people I know, friends and family, who it's obvious they're an extreme narcissist. They take that excessive amount of interest in themselves. I mean, one way to tell is look at their Facebook page. Do they have a reasonable number of photos of themselves, or do they have a huge number of photos of themselves?
There's no defining moment with narcissism, and I guess that's why it exists, and it exists so covertly. I mean, it's okay to say Facebook. I don't have a Facebook account, so what does that say about me?
Yeah.
You know, I think people often ask the question, "Oh, do you think I'm being narcissistic?" You know, and my answer to them has always been the same. The fact that you are aware of it means that you have a healthy relationship with it.
Yeah.
It's people that deny they are narcissistic. They are the ones to be very cautious around, because they can justify anything on the basis of denial. No, I'm not narcissistic. No, I did it to help you. Now, on all these catchphrases that we hear, oh, I did it to help you, tough love, sometimes you've got to be cruel to be kind. The list goes on and on and on. They are all just narcissistic views under some sort of thin veil of so-called love and kindness, which, by the way, is anything but.
Yeah.
I beat the child in order to help them. Really? How did it help them? But I think the psychologist inside of me says, what has happened to these people that they are narcissistic? And I think therein lies the answer. They've grown up in a world where they felt downtrodden, and they therefore justify taking from others on the basis of, oh, well, I had to go without, it's my turn now. Narcissism is a mental illness, and it is inside of everybody, and the best way of dealing with it, I guess, whether it be inside yourself or inside of another, is to be aware of it and have a healthy caution around it, knowing full well that it is an addiction that can never be satisfied. No matter how much money someone's got, they're always going to want more.
And the narcissist will tend to use other people for their own self-interest, and that's where you need to be very cautious around people like that.
Absolutely. And there's an old saying in the psychology world, narcissists and rescuers need each other.
Yeah.
One cannot exist without the other. So all those people that, our beloved fans, that give up their precious time to watch our videos and our chats, all those people that follow us, be conscious of the rescuer inside you, because it is that rescuer that the narcissist needs to have a good feed of your blood and flesh.
It's called a narcissistic supply, and there's somebody I know who, in my life, who will remain anonymous, who is in a relationship with a narcissist, and it's got all the hallmarks of a bad relationship, and that this person is being used as narcissistic supply. And there are differences between the male and the female narcissist, which I think we should go into a little bit. The male narcissist will tend to be very interested in wealth, power, and status, and the external display of all that, to say to the world, this is who I am, this is what I've got, love me. Whereas the female narcissist will often be preoccupied with beauty, looks, appearance, to try to show to the world that she is worth it, desirable. Yeah.
But I'm going to go on the record here. Male narcissists are much more dangerous than female narcissists. We often, you and I, we often get criticised. Oh, you've got poor opinion of women, and you've got nothing good to say about women, which is absolutely not true. I see men and women as equal in every way. I am the ultimate feminist, right? I will go on record here and now and say male narcissists are a lot more dangerous than female narcissists.
Yeah.
You only got to look through history. How many female dictators have you seen?
Yeah. Well, look,
Right?
I completely agree. The male
How
has
how many female mass murderers have you seen?
Yeah. Now, it should be noted that there have been examples of female mass murderers in history. However, they're greatly outnumbered by male mass murderers, and
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
male of the species tends to be the one who's physically stronger and
Yeah.
will be drawn to, men tend to exist on that spectrum. Men can be extreme idiots, some of the dumbest people around. They can also be extremely intelligent and, at the other end of the spectrum, whereas the female tends to be sort of
Yeah.
in the middle.
If you look at someone like Donald Trump, he's both at the same time.
Yes.
But no, men flip flop between power and mummy's boys, I guess you could say, right? And this brings out the narcissism in men in a really big way. They can justify anything if they believe that their power is going to be increased.
Yeah.
Of course, in modern times, this equates to the dollar. In years gone by, it was land, water rights, mating rights, these kind of things. Female narcissism is very different to male narcissism, and I think it is inadequate to put them together in the one conversation. Female narcissism, which is really about tell me I'm beautiful, provide me with a lifestyle, provide me with security, is very different to the male narcissism, which is I don't care who has to die, I want more money, more power, and I want my ego to get its own way.
Yeah.
And without narcissism, I suppose everybody would be depressed. But it's certainly not an antidote for depression, because some of the most narcissistic people I know are also the most miserable, unhappy, and depressed. Where does it come from? I'm not sure. Does it come from the ego? Does it come from some sort of victim mentality? I'm not sure. But all I know is if you want a great life, you need to keep narcissistic people at arm's length and be at a very long arm at that.
And that goes for psychopathic people as well. And I've got a bit of a story for you. There's somebody who, in my life, who I grew up with, went to school with, and from a very early age, and I'm talking very early age, prep, grade 1, that's when it was first noted, not just by the other kids, but by the parents in particular. And this person was either going to grow up to be a career criminal or to make a lot of money in the corporate world. And my understanding is he made a shitload of money in the corporate world.
Yeah.
But there's something innate. It's that they were sort of born that way. And this person just exists at the extreme end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Well, the psychologists have a saying that sums this up perfectly. Smart narcissists end up wealthy, dumb narcissists end up in jail.
Yeah.
Right? As we've mentioned many times, my day-to-day job is I drive a rig on the interstate in Australia, and I quite often see the roads that I go on, there's not very many rest stops, and I quite often see the prison van, believe it or not. And same guys that are on the same runs, and I often say hello to them. And we actually have a few conversations about this topic, believe it or not. And it started off as a joke. I said one time when I was stopped having a 5-minute walk around, a 5-minute break, I said to these prison guys, the prison, not the inmates, the guys in charge of their transportation, I said to them, how's your distinguished guests full of their own self-importance? He said, you're onto it. You're absolutely onto it. They absolutely have an undying belief that their needs are higher than the laws of the land. And as a result, they've ended up in the back of the prison van. And one of the most common traits amongst prisoners is that a lack of empathy for another human being. And I think this is where narcissists are able to tap into some sort of energy source. If you don't care about anyone else, whether it be like them, love them, or just have general feelings for them, in other words, if your pain matrix in your head feels nothing for another person, you can do whatever you want and have a clear conscience. Narcissists have a belief system where their conscience is always clear, always. And of course, they save the best for their so-called loved ones, their families, their children, their wives, their husbands. They save the best for them. And, you know, they love them as long as they're compliant and serving them, they love them. Now, there's the irony of narcissism, because isn't love supposed to be unconditional and accepting?
Well, you've raised an interesting point, and there's a person that I'm counselling at the moment and trying to help through some difficult times, and my advice to him was, look, if this person really loved you, they would have said, I wish only the best for you.
You're free. Yeah, they would have said you're free.
Yeah, you're free. I wish only the best for you, and I hope everything works out well in the future. But they didn't say that, and it's characteristic of these people. And even with the person that I was talking about, who I grew up with, pretty much day one, I'll never forget it, because it was the first time I was ever punched in the face. And here I am, this little kid, and it's literally it's my first year of primary school. And this guy, or this young boy, was commanding the group, and I said something which wasn't right, or that he took offence to, and he punched me in the nose. And here I am, this little kid, and I could see it for what it was even then, and the teachers could see this person as a problem kid, and I think there is that sort of genetic component. I think it's part upbringing, it's part genetic. But part circumstantial, what's going on in the family and the environment at that point in time. But geez, I tell you, when they're displaying those sorts of characteristics at that age, they become very dangerous as an adult.
Yeah, it's frightening, absolutely frightening. And we've all, as we get on in life, we look back at what happened in the schoolyard, and a lot of it is quite disturbing. I was recently watching some documentaries on YouTube about what went on during World War II, and there was some footage from the Nuremberg trials. And, as we all know, I mean, what went on during World War II, the Holocaust and other things as well, it's been the most documented and researched crime in history. There's no shortage of supporting evidence and documentation. By the way, most of it was documented by the Germans. Yeah. But anyway, they had an SS officer on trial in Nuremberg for war crimes, and they asked him about the crimes that he committed, and his answer was, I have committed no crimes. These people were not human beings. Right? And obviously that is the extreme case of narcissism. When a person is able to look at another person and not see them as a person, crime is easy for those people, very easy. I'm surrounded by narcissists, especially in the workplace. I'm surrounded by them. And I guess my story is no different to anybody else's. The question for me and everyone else is how do you manage it in such a way that it doesn't cause you stress, that it doesn't leave you anxious, doesn't leave you laying awake at night, those kind of things.
And I think one strategy to do that and it's a strategy which never came to me as at first or as any kind of intuitive way to deal with things, because my way of dealing with things was always to attack things head on and to try to do something, take some action.
Doesn't work out for you.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. So when it comes to narcissists and people who are very difficult to deal with, from a couple of years ago, I decided, okay, I'm going to walk away. In each case where I'm dealing with people on that level, I say, all right, I am not going to deal with this person. I am going to take the lead, and I'm not going to engage at all. I'm going to walk away.
Don't engage. Yeah.
Don't engage, and you can't, because if you engage with them, you become a source of narcissistic supply, and it's all over. You just
and what happens is your pain body and their pain body go toe to toe, head to head. Both have a good feed. You cannot win with a narcissist. That is something that you need to accept. The only way you can win is to remove yourself from their world.
Yeah,
and also at the same time remove them from your world.
Absolutely.
In other words, do not be leveraged by them. But on a closing note, I looked up something this morning, and I'm a big fan of Shakespeare, as I've mentioned a few times, and it's quite interesting that Shakespeare had a few things to say about narcissists.
Okay.
And on a closing note, I'd like to quote something from Shakespeare.
Okay.
It is, "Thou's life is as good as those that you excluded."
That's a great one, isn't it? Hey.
I think it's very accurate. For something that's 400 years old, nothing's changed.
And I guess my closing remark will be Platchstick's Wheel of Emotions. And I'll provide the link to Platchstick's Wheel in the description for this video. And I'd like to leave our viewers with the thought that, okay, if you're dealing with somebody who is pushing many negative emotions in you, have a look at Platchstick's Wheel, and just think about the people in your life who are triggering very negative emotions in you in comparison to the people in your life who are triggering very positive emotions in you. And I think referring to Platchstick's Wheel can really help you when you are in the midst of a narcissist, because it becomes obvious to see the various leaps in the wheel and say, all right, well, this person is making me feel fear, envy, insecurity, whatever it might be, versus this other person is making me feel accepted, loved, and making me feel good about myself rather than being used. So
yeah. Well, this has been an interesting chat. We'd like some. This is an issue that affects everybody, and I would really like to see some feedback, some emails from our loyal fans, and I guarantee we will revisit this topic. There's a lot more to be discussed here. We don't want to overdo it in one show. Narcissism is a sickness, and it's inside all of us. We are exposed to it, and you can't sterilise your life and remove it from it, because it's just not realistic either. But the fact that someone is looking at this show and has not switched it off in the first 5 minutes, that indicates to me that you're exposed to narcissists and you're trying to understand it.
Yeah.
And I promise you, we'll revisit this in greater detail. I want to talk about narcissism in families, particularly between fathers and sons, and I also want to talk about narcissism in relationships, like romantic relationships, marriages, those kind of things. This is an area that it's going to branch out into at least half a dozen more shows, and stay tuned in.
Indeed. All right. Well, thanks very much, Prophet, for this show, and thanks to our viewers. And we'll join you next time with another subject of interest.
Absolutely. Bye for now.
All right. Bye for now.